Day for individuals and Rotarians who seek to address those needs. We come with gratitude for those who devote themselves to serving the poor and marginalized among us, those who foster hope and opportunity, who improve lives and futures. We're grateful for those who support these efforts with their time and energy and their money. Bless, we pray, the sacred work of compassionate people who in a myriad of ways seek to lift others up, to restore confidence, and who believe that all people have worth, dignity, and the right to fulfill their potential. Motivate us, we pray, to serve, to give, to be more aware of the needs around us, and to respond to those needs in measurable and meaningful ways. Amen.
It's always tough to follow Barry Barker. I don't have the quick wit that Barry has on the microphone. So, you know, when I was listening to Tracy's invocation, he was talking about how we can be the kind of people that see others, that believe in the worth and the dignity, that don't turn a blind eye, but that step up and lead and do that work for those least among us. And that was a great invocation around Theresa's work. So thank you for that. Because she is one of those people. She's one of those people who throughout her life and in her work now with Metro United Way is leading with her heart and her head, with bold and compassionate leadership. And so I'm grateful to be working alongside her in so many ways. But a quick intro about Theresa. She became the president and CEO of Metro United Way in 2017, which was its centennial year, and helped lead the organization to a record-breaking $36 million 100th anniversary campaign. She previously served, where I had the chance to work with her, as the first Chief of Performance and Technology for local metro government, where she oversaw the Office of Performance Improvement and Innovation, the Department of Information Technology, and the Department of Human Resources. I don't know how they're keeping it together over there without you. And she has been really integral in leading not just Louisville, but a national leader around government innovation, data-driven solutions. She has spoken both internationally and nationally on the subjects of performance management, data-driven decision-making, and culture change, and co-authored a chapter in the book Beyond Transparency. In 2015, Government Technology named her one of the top 25 doers, dreamers, and drivers. I love that. I love that one very much. I think all of us look to Theresa as she's, congratulations when she received the Best of Kentucky Visionary Award. Theresa is a graduate of the United States Coast Guard Academy and a former lieutenant in the U.S. Coast Guard, where she deployed to the Persian Gulf, was on the first Coast Guard cutter to circumnavigate the globe, and served as a Sea Marshal post 9/11. Theresa earned a master's in public policy from Harvard's Kennedy School of Government and previously worked as a consultant with McKinsey & Company. Theresa serves on the WDRB editorial board, the board of directors for Actors Theater, the Drucker Institute, and Greater Louisville, Inc. She lives in the Highlands with her husband, Ben, and their 3 children. And my quick just description of Theresa, like I said, she leads with her heart and her head, with incredible intelligence, but a really strong and driving heart for people and for community. She was a social innovator, a change maker, a leader, and a friend. So join me in welcoming Theresa.
Thank you so much, Kristen, and to all those naysayers from the Merchant Marine out there. The Coast Guard is the best service. We can debate that afterwards in questions, but no, really, Kristen, thank you for that introduction. I am extremely grateful to you as a friend, but also a mentor. This is a crazy space we're in, and you've been there a little bit more than me, and I really appreciate all of your guidance and wisdom. My sincere thanks also to President Barry. I don't call you that in any other room, so I'm just going to call it to you here. But also the leadership of the club for inviting me to speak with you all today. I am so excited to see so many friends and family members. Maggie Harlow, and I think my husband snuck in somewhere. There he is. As well as partners and donors and supporters, just such a room of friends, and for those I have not met yet, future friends. It has been my distinct pleasure to be the president and CEO of Metro United Way for the last 2 years. And professionally, it feels like a culmination of this very somewhat meandering and diverse background that I have had in my career. From Coast Guard officer to consultant to a chief in Metro government, all that I've learned throughout, whether it was about leading teams as a military officer or about strategy and performance improvement or about our community when I was at Metro government, really feels as though it has helped me take on the challenges that our United Way and our community are facing right now. And I am so proud to be doing this work alongside so many of the partners that I see from nonprofits in this room right now. Metro United Way, your Metro United Way, just happens to be the 30th largest United Way in the country. That's out of about 1,200 different United Ways. We raise anywhere from $25 to $30 million a year. Our impact spans 7 counties, both here in Kentucky and in southern Indiana, and we touch the lives of more than 250,000 people. And all of that work, again, has tested me and stretched me from day one. But really the role also feels like I've come full circle personally. It feels as though I now have the opportunity to pay forward the support and the help that I received as a child to those in need across our community. And so today I want to share a little bit with you about my own story and how I've been shaped by the supports that I received early in my life, and also share a bit about Metro United Way and all that we're doing, especially through an effort called United Community, to help all people gain access to the supports that they need. And so when I get to that point in the program, if you want to look, there's been a couple of these put on your table that you can kind of thumb through as I talk. Like many of us, the first formal door that I walked through were the doors of my elementary school. And like many children in our community today, 45% to be exact, entering JCPS, I was not ready. I was already off track day one. In our community, that's nearly 4,000 children every year that show up without the tools to be successful. 5- and 6-year-olds who, quite honestly, may not know their first or last name, who don't have the motor skills to hold a crayon, who may not have the vocabulary to understand their teacher or the social emotional skills to sit next to someone in the classroom. For me, I had a hard time putting letters together, make words. And so one of my earliest memories was taking a test so they could figure out what was wrong with me. I was actually talking to folks at DePaul School, Lisa, just yesterday about remembering and having it seared in my brain that statement. We can't figure out what's wrong with her. We don't know why she can't read and why she can't learn in the way everyone else can. But we think that she's got a high enough IQ that she should be able to figure it out. I mean, I remember that from just sitting in that small little room with my parents and the guidance counselor. And I was fortunate because my school had access to resources to connect me to a reading specialist. And so for the next 4 years, I was pulled out of class. It feels like it was every day, but maybe it was 2 or 3 times a week. I still remember the eyes of all of those students as I was pulled out of my math class, as I was pulled out of the library, as I was pulled out of different classes to go and sit with Miss Kofa, who was an extremely warm-hearted, lovely, large woman, And we would sit side by side, and she worked with me for 4 years to get me to be able to learn how to read. It was in 5th grade that I finally put it all together, and I earned the Most Improved Reader Award. And I always tell people it's really easy to get Most Improved Reader when you can't read See Spot Run. And then all of a sudden you can. But it was such a moment for me because it taught me the value of working really hard. And that you could, if you put extra effort in it and had the right supports, really overcome many of the challenges that feel very impossible at the beginning. So I appreciate a couple of things about my early years in school. I appreciate that there were adults around me who had the belief that I could overcome that learning difference that I had. Too many kids in our community right now don't even have an adult around them that has that belief in them or expresses that belief in them consistently enough. I also appreciated having access to a reading specialist who would work with me day in and day out to make sure I got the skills I needed to be able to succeed. I am so fortunate that all those resources were there, and I think about that every single time Metro United Way invests in the early childhood work that we invest in our community. I think of it when I think of the dollars that are going to not only invest in kids as they enter kindergarten, but invest in kids in that 0 to 5 space. In investing in the supports that allow us to identify before they ever show up day one, whether or not they're not reaching those milestones that they need to be, and helping their parents and their families connect them to those resources and services so that when they show up on day one, they already have the ability to succeed. Today, when you read my bio, and you see that I went to the Coast Guard Academy or that I went to Harvard's Kennedy School, you would never know that I struggled with a learning difference and that it took me till 5th grade to learn how to read. And I'm proud of that, but I'm also proud of what it took to get me there. Not surprisingly, being off track for so long impacted my self-esteem, and couple that with, awkward middle school years. No one feels good then, right? I really wasn't the most confident kid in 6th grade and 7th grade. And so enter the next really powerful connection and door that I got to walk through. And that was Girl Scouts. And I know Jackie is here from Girl Scouts. I know we got Boy Scouts represented as well. But I will tell you that for me, joining the Girl Scouts reinforced all the values that my family instilled in me about service to others and gave me the added courage, confidence, and conviction to become the woman that I am today. Girl Scouts teaches service to community, but it also has a great motto that I continue to use to this day, and that is to always leave a place better than you found it. The focus on service to others, improving the world, not only from my family but from the Girl Scouts, truly resonated with me, and it led me on to the career that I've had since then, joining the Coast Guard Academy being one of those big steps for me. But when I think about the power of this after-school program and how much it takes to invest in these types of programs in our community, I know that it is so critical that we make sure that every child has access to the Boys and Girls Club, has access to Big Brothers Big Sisters, to Girl Scouts, to Boy Scouts, to the Urban Leagues programs, to the Academy of Music Production and Education. These are the types of out-of-school time programs that Metro United Way is investing in every day to make sure that kids get access to not just the educational supports they need, but also to the confidence-building environments that these out-of-school time programs provide for children. They provide that social-emotional learning that we have the data all day long. I'm a big data nerd in a wall, but we have the data all day long that we can tell you and show you that these kids who are in these out-of-school time programs, when they go to JCPS and when they're sitting in those classrooms, they have better attendance, they have lower suspensions, and they have better academic outcomes. But I know personally that they also have greater self-esteem, and their eyes have been open to things that maybe their family or their neighborhood can't show them, but that those organizations, the mentors in those organizations can open their eyes to, so that they can think about expanding to a greater vision for themselves. My journey to Louisville and the role that I'm in today was not direct. You heard it in my bio. While in the Coast Guard, I got to circumnavigate the globe. I enforced UN sanctions against Iraq, delivered humanitarian aid to islands across the world. As a consultant, I had the privilege of working in Dubai, in Belgium, and all across the United States. And we're looking from the outside in, the path I've taken may seem really kind of convoluted. I get that. But there is a connection, and you've probably already picked it out, and as Rotarians, I know you already feel this in your core. In each of the roles and each of the opportunities that I've taken, it's been a focus on making a positive difference in lives of others that has really driven me. And I left the Coast Guard actually because I felt like the difference I was making was too singular. I was saving one life at a time. And I wanted the opportunity to get to a place and a platform where I was able to actually affect the lives of many at once, whether through policy work or programmatic work, and it's all culminated again professionally in this role that I have today as the leader of Metro United Way across our community. Our vision is to help people achieve their full potential through education, we know that it's so critical, through financial independence, and through healthy lives. We don't just fund agencies, and we can talk about that all day long. It is a core piece of what we do in working with our partners, but we fund outcomes that help individuals in our community thrive. That is what we are about. And we're not just about serving kids. I know I spent a lot of time talking about my background and why it's so important to invest early in children, but we know that we cannot support the next generation if we don't invest in the current generation of adults around them. And so all of our work in financial independence and healthy lives is focused on making sure that the adults surrounding our kids are stable and are thriving so that those kids get what they need. We provide the support and the infrastructure to reduce duplication, to address gaps and disconnects in all of the human services across our community. And we are on the cusp of elevating how we do this through our United Community effort. So this is the time, if you're at your table, you can look at this. You can open it up, it's very beautiful. I'm going to talk to it, but according to the Greater Louisville Project, and I just happen to know the director of, his name is Theresa Reno-Weber, more than 1 in 5 Louisvillian children, approximately 38,000 children live in multidimensional poverty. 2/3 of those households have a median income of $11,000 a year. These are households with at least one child in them. $11,000 a year. You cannot provide for the basic needs of yourself and your family at $11,000 a year, not even in local Kentucky. To break that, we need to be working in concert with one another, because the issues that level of socioeconomic poverty creates for adults, for families, for children are so vast, and they are so complex, and they are not singular. And many of our nonprofits know this, and they aren't working to address just one need. But what they're doing is stretching themselves to try to become all things to the people they're serving. And we are on the cusp again of investing in a solution that allows them to be able to be the best at what they provide as a human service organization in our community. If you're the best at helping people meet the most basic need of having food on their table every day, if you're the best at helping people get housing over their head, the best at addressing mental health, or the best at addressing substance abuse issues, lean into that. And when that individual or family that you're serving has another need outside of your specialty, refer them to the other resources in our community that we all invest in, that we know are necessary to lift them and those families up. Right now, it's really difficult to coordinate that care. Metro United Way has maintained the 211 referral system for about 12 years now. It's a phone number, 211, you can call it 24/7, 365 days a year, and reach an individual who will tell you about over 17,000 different resources and services in our community. Whether you need to figure out how to help your aging parent or spouse get care at home, or you need to figure out how to get free child care for your child, or diapers or milk, or get out of an abusive relationship, all of those services are listed in that resource directory. But there's a few flaws in it right now. Because when you call that number and get that information, the burden is on you as the individual to, one, recognize it's a need you have, and two, to be able to then get yourself to that organization or multiple organizations and navigate all of the resources that they may or may not have for you. So think of it this way. If you are a single mother and you've fallen behind on your bills and find your family in crisis on multiple fronts, whether it's being able to pay your rent, being able to put food on the table, being able to maintain your job because you have a young one and you need child care, or you have another one you need after-school care, you may call 211 and you may get a list of resources that can help meet each of those individual needs that you have. But then, on your time off, you need to navigate to each of those resources and find out if you qualify for those. We hope that we've navigated you properly, but when you get there, you might find out that they actually have a long waiting list and no ability to serve you at that moment in time. You've now been additionally burdened. And if you've had any faith in the system, you've likely lost it, because here you have taken yourself and your small family, 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, across town to all these different places to try to get the supports that you need, and maybe out of the 5 you get 2, but the other 3 were a big drain on your time. The United Community effort is an effort that Metro United Way stands behind, but is alongside 50 other organizations across our community, from the healthcare space, the nonprofit social service space, the education space, to make sure that whenever anyone presents at any organization in our community, whether they come to the Urban League and they need help for mental health, which the Urban League does not provide and will tell you all day long they don't know how to help, they will now be able to not just say to that individual, I can't help you, let me call 211 and find out who you can, but they will be able to share the information based on that individual's consent to a network of other resources in our community that can meet that mental health need or that food need or that housing need. And they will share it in a way that those other organizations will receive it and will be able to acknowledge that, yes, I actually have the capacity to accept that individual as a referral. And when that individual is there, whether they are taken there through transportation that's established or they show up, they know that they're going to be able to be helped by that organization. And they're not going to have to repeat the story that they repeated at the first place, or bring the same paperwork that they've already uploaded and filled out at 4 other organizations. It will be on the system, and they will be able to start at square 5, not at square 0. This is going to be transformative for our community. It's a conversation that I've been a part of for the last 6 years. When I was back at Metro Government, we talked about it from the standpoint of the dual diagnosis, mental health, substance abuse population, and trying to connect them to resources so they didn't flow between the emergency rooms, the jail, and the healing place or other detox centers. We couldn't share information to even know who was touching all of those different people and going to all those different organizations. This will allow us to see transparently where people are being served and where they're not. It will allow us to understand what the supply and demand mismatch is in our community. Where are there gaps? Where do we keep referring folks to that there's a long waiting list and we need to invest more in, whether it's affordable housing or detox beds or any of the other resources? This will be revolutionary from the standpoint that our school system will be connected to it. So when kids show up at school and they're struggling because they don't have a full stomach full of food or they've witnessed trauma in the home the night before, they're going to be able to have those guidance counselors or those resource officers or those mental health providers there to connect them to a network of services that can wrap around not only those children but their families. With United Community, we can ensure that every door in our community is the right door for children, for individuals, and for families needing support to overcome any of the barriers that they have to thriving. In my own case, it was a combination of supports, from reading assistance to Girl Scouts, to many that I didn't even touch on, that were provided by local churches and others to support my family as I was growing up. My hope is that the work we do together in uniting our community will unlock the potential of others in the same ways that my own potential was unlocked. Recognizing the purpose of Rotary and your motto of service above self, I look forward to exploring the ways that we can work together to continue to further the life outcomes of individuals across our community. I will take any questions that you have.
Hi, Theresa. Larry Sloan.
Hi there.
Glad to have you here. Great presentation. I'm involved in the Age Friendly City organization as a volunteer, and one of the problems that I've seen is the difficulty of transportation for people that you have described. What does your organization do to help that?
Thank you for the question. So we've been working in partnership with the community on this conversation in particular, at least for the 2 years I've been there. I know much longer because transportation has been a barrier for many, for not only getting to services, but also getting to work. We have a great partnership with TARC, and just recently retired, but we continue to have a strong partnership to be able to provide TARC passes for individuals very specifically and directly right now. But United Way Worldwide, and we're looking to try to be the next city that they move into, has struck a partnership also with Lyft, and Lyft like Uber. But with Lyft in particular, Lyft granted United Way Worldwide 10,000 free rides, and there were 10 cities that received 1,000 rides, and through 211, they've been marketing that you need a non-emergent transport. You need to get to fill a prescription, you need to get to a job, you need to get to an interview. You can call 211 and they will send a free Lyft ride to you. There's obviously cost to that, but this is something that Lyft has done in partnership with Worldwide. And so we're looking in this community alongside with many other partners about how do we address that transportation issue through innovative solutions like that.
Hi there, I'm Kevin Wardell. On the fundraising side, obviously United Way relies a lot on small donors to employers. Tax law has been a big question mark that we've all had in terms of what the impact would be on fundraising on all kinds of types of charitable organizations. I wonder if you could comment on that based on the experience you've seen.
Thank you so much. I would say on the specific implications of the tax law, it's a little too early to tell. We haven't really been able to understand how that's going to impact all of the small donors in particular. We have over 50,000 donors. That's the work of Metro United Way. Many of that is through our workplace campaigns. We know that several of the larger donors are starting to look at bundling their gifts because of that deduction threshold. And so we're trying to have very targeted conversations with individual donors who might be at that $10,000 giving level, and they're going to say, we want to give $30,000. Again, these are a higher number of individuals, or smaller number of individuals giving higher. That's where we've seen some changes to the conversation. But it is a huge concern. I know Kristen Boone and all the other nonprofits in this room are looking at that really cautiously and trying to have conversations with their donors and with the community so that they understand that so much of everything we do is driven by the generosity of others. Many of the nonprofits in our community, United Way being one of them, does not get reimbursed by the federal government for the work that we do. It all is driven by individual donations. And even for the partner organizations that we invest in, we may give them 10% of their budget, 5%, 20%. It's not full funding. And so we know that they also need our support, but need the support of the community as well. So I don't have a direct answer because I haven't seen it play out just yet, but we're really worried about what that implication could be.
Yes, Theresa, I'm Fred Cowan. I wonder, perhaps in your position, you may have almost the best vantage point of anybody in this community concerning the strengths and weaknesses of our various social service areas, whether it's homelessness, drug addiction, transportation, joblessness, education, etc. And I wonder if you could just briefly, if you can do that, kind of outline what you see our community in comparison to other communities. Where are we particularly good and where are we particularly bad?
So I will answer it this way and say from the standpoint, and I've been in the community for 9 years now. So I met my husband at the Kennedy School. He dragged me here. But now I'm here happily. But initially I was being dragged. But I think what I've been so impressed with in our community is the willingness of people to get together around a table and to talk about how to collaborate. the frustration that I have is we talk about how to collaborate. We don't always collaborate. We pull a lot of tables together, and it doesn't actually translate in my mind quickly enough to the work that changes the outcomes or the way that people are helped in our community. And so, not that any other community has figured it out much better, but we're looking at our partners. Other United Ways, there's 1,200 in this country, but again, we're one of the 30 largest. And so those other large markets, whether it's LA or Boston or Indianapolis or Chicago, we're trying to understand what they're doing and how they're driving outcomes in some of the areas, whether it's early childhood or the youth success space, the financial independence, all those different areas. And I would say in that early childhood space, we are a national example for some of the work that we're doing right now to bring a collective group of partners who are not traditionally thought of as working together, pediatricians' offices, child care centers, for-profit and nonprofit, JCPS and others, to say what is it going to take to make sure every child enters ready for success, because we can debate all day long what's working or not working with JCPS, but when 45% of the kids starting are already off track, that pretty much mirrors the kids coming out the pipeline the other way. Right? 45% aren't college or career ready. Maybe we should work on focusing on that 0 to 5 space. And we've done a lot of good work in the last few years to move that needle up 7 percentage points of kids entering kindergarten. So our early childhood space, I'd say, is really a model for the country, as well as the work we're doing right now in our equity space. Metro United Way has been funded by the Keenan Charitable Trust to do work in black male achievement. We've partnered with JCPS and the W.E. Du Bois Academy. And others are looking to us in the ways that we're trying to change the narrative around the achievements and the accomplishments and the opportunities for young men and boys of color. So there are 2 areas that I think are bright spots for us, but we need to work on changing the actual things that we talk about changing.
Good afternoon, Walt Kuno, and I want to thank you for the work you do. Following on what Fred just said, and so we've got, you were in the mayor's office and you had the cradle to career situation. Now we have Evolve 502. And how is Metro United Way and Evolve 502 collaborating and changing some of the stuff that you'd like to see changed?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So for those who follow along at home, it was Cradle to Career, was Louisville Promise. It's now Evolve 502. Metro United Way has been at that table, but before I was obviously running the organization, we've been the early childhood pillar in that Cradle to Career pipeline of how do you make sure that we're as a community focused on helping each part of the system, make sure that the youngest in our community become those who can provide for themselves and their families in really great paying jobs ultimately as a part of this community. As it's all evolved to Evolve 502, Metro United Way, I am on the board of Evolve 502. Evolve 502 is actually in our building on our 3rd floor. And we are working really closely together. And the United Community effort that I spoke to, part of the focus that has emerged through this work is to say, how do we, you may have heard about this in the media, how do we help provide a guaranteed 2-year scholarship for every child graduating from JCPS? That is one portion of the work that Evolve 502 is doing. The other part of that, though, is a focus on making sure that kids actually get to that graduation point with a belief, a willingness, and an yearning to go on to college or technical school or into a career with the skills that they need to start day one. To do that, you need to address some of the challenges that we're seeing early on in school. You need to be able to wrap around those kids and their families and address those social issues. For many of these kids, it is not an academic issue. It is not that they are not intelligent. It is that they are struggling because they just witnessed a shooting in their neighborhood. Or they're coming to school and they haven't eaten over the weekend. I mean, those are the things that make it really hard for them to absorb anything that the school system is doing. And so I see our work in pushing and partnering with Evolve 502. So Marlon Cole is the new executive director, is also one of the co-leads of the United Community effort, as a really big pillar in helping advance that work.
of many powerful women in the community. Thank you for that. Kristen, you as well. Stop by and see Craig on the way out. Sisterhood is powerful. Don't forget to pick up a parking pass. And have a great week, everybody.